Hello and welcome to another episode of the Hypertrophy Odyssey. It is the first day of the week, aka the Kamehameha workout. I'm feeling very good right now, very excited for this workout. But anyways, to the main subject matter for today, setting up different obstacles in my life. So the main reason why I want to discuss this is because recently I got an MP3 player, which I alluded to in previous episodes before. But I actually wanted to talk about it, and why I got an MP3 player, and why I can't use this. Well, I can still use this, but I really do want to talk about it. But intentionally putting up barriers has been something that I've been trying to experiment with, because I do want to put up some fronts on certain things, specifically this thing, because I have to stop being on this thing 24/7. This thing is a fucking nightmare after a while. There's so many notifications and work has become hell, so it is something that I want to get away from, try to visually get away from it. Although it not fully can't get away from it in its entirety. That is something that would require a lot of stuff. But in reality, I would like to get there someday where this is maybe just for communication purposes and nothing else. But we'll get there when we get there. But in today's episode, we're going to be looking at that, and I'm going to be discussing a little bit more of my reasonings as for these types of things and a few other things when we get some other reasons.
Alright, so start this day off with dips, which are pretty good. But anyways, back to the main subject matter for today. Setting up different barriers in my life. So the main reason why I want to discuss this is because, like I said before, I had bought an MP3 player for purposes of trying to get rid of my phone while working out. This has failed spectacularly as much as I wanted it to succeed, and it failed for multiple reasons. Let me start with number one. First, the MP3 player in and of itself is fine when used in a vacuum and or for casual, easy listening. Because of the fact that I'm in a gym setting, I want to change songs quickly and do a bunch of stuff very quickly, which this MP3 player that I got does not necessarily do. So unfortunately, it is a little bit rough. Like if I was just going through casually listening to music, that's fine. But the issue is that because of the power of the MP3 player is so minimal that if you do too many things, like, I don't know, skip like 4 tracks in a row, it will crash the entire MP3 player, and thus making my life a little bit more difficult than it needs to be. And I think that that's the main balance that I wanted to try to strike with this entire idea of putting more barriers in my life. In a certain sense, what I was trying to do, or at least figure out a way to do, is to make it so that there is more barrier to entry when it comes to certain things of easy dopamine hits. So, for example, the reason why the MP3 player would be around is so that way I can listen to music while working out, but I'm listening to music off something that I don't necessarily have to have my phone, because my phone, I could easily just go to a different app or do something else and all this other stuff that would be great to get rid of in theory. But the issue with that is that, one, the MP3 player wasn't as good, and two, all of my workouts are on my fucking phone, so the phone has to come and stay with me anyway. So regardless of whether or not the MP3 player was successful in doing this, my phone was still going to have to be around. And even then, something along the lines of writing out my workout every single week, although it doesn't seem like the worst thing in the world, or maybe even just printing it out also doesn't seem like the worst thing in the world, it's still a waste of resources and just doing something. Like, for example, I could probably have gotten a whiteboard and written it all out, but God forbid something happens where I either just wipe off half the board or something along those lines, and then it's fucked. There's certain levels of certain drawbacks to certain things, especially with something like the whiteboard, because my handwriting is fucking trash, so there would be times I already understand and know I would have fucked it up. So I'd rather not even have attempted that. But even then, something like a notebook would have been nice, and the idea of it would be nice, but also just writing everything out is just a chore to me, to the point where it doesn't seem like it's worth it. And I think that that's the entire point, is that we've gotten so used to technology being around that now it's kind of encapsulated in between everything that we do. And unfortunately, as much as I want to make more barriers in my life, unless I dumb down literally everything else in my world, or just get a new MP3 player, because that is possible, just trying to do some stuff like that is going to be a difficult task, than way more than I thought. Originally, I thought it was just going to be the MP3 player. I can listen to it while working out, all this other stuff. But instead, it seems as though that it comes with the consequences of a bunch of other things that are going to have to change if I really wanted to try this or attempt this. I also was thinking about possibly just logging off of social medias while I'm working out, and then just logging back in while I'm doing that. That is something I have not attempted to do, but it is something that I will probably try to do after this video, because it seems as though it's a decent idea. But even then, it's kind of like I will just probably put the login back in, you know what I mean? Like, there's just a lot of barriers that unfortunately aren't really necessarily barriers. It's like insert the gif of Patrick and SpongeBob going on the roller coaster, and it's like the one little boop boop, that entire idea. So that's the entire point that kind of sucks about this type of stuff, where we have to deal with the fact that your phone is right there and everything else that is access to your phone entails. So yes, I probably should do more things in order to get more barriers into my life, but it's just gonna have to take a lot of steps in order for me to do something like that, and also way more money and technology than I actually care to give. Mostly the MP3 player. It kind of sucks that this one just really, it doesn't do everything that I would want, but something as simple as skipping a few songs in a row is something that it can't handle, which I don't think that it is worth keeping, or at least not worth using if I'm gonna have to deal with an extra 3 to 5 minutes of it crashing, restarting, making sure the Bluetooth works, and then all of a sudden finally I can listen to music again, but then pray that it doesn't just crash immediately if I don't skip a couple of songs in a row, or God forbid turn on the screen in between songs, because that was also an issue too. If it was loading between one song to another, it would just crash. So it was a nice thought at the beginning of this, but it definitely has a lot of bugs in the programming.
And we're back. Welcome to the workout debriefing. Exercises not filmed, none. Exercises skipped, also none. My forehead looks fucking huge right now. Back to the main subject matter for today. Putting up more barriers in my life. So the main reason I want to discuss this is because this is something that I've been wanting to do for a while, but have been like slowly pussyfooting in, which is I think is something that I should probably just full on bore go into, because I think that the ease of access of a lot of stuff make it so that we end up not taking advantage of, one, things that we have already, but two, also just kind of a concentration that exceeds the next level of stuff. Now, of course, this is obviously funny coming from a guy who's recording all of his stuff and putting it up to YouTube and all that other stuff, but at the same time, this is more of a diary, if you will, or a journal. There you go. That's a little less fruity. And the thing is that it's interesting to see what will make me lose time and effort and motion, basically, and try to put the borders around it, so then that way, in order to access it, I have to go out of my way to do it, something like social media and stuff like that. So I think setting up these borders are a good idea, but not only that, but as well as myself with other companies, so then that way I'm not beholden to them. I'm trying to set myself up so then that way I don't have to be beholden to a Spotify or to a Netflix or an Amazon Prime or anything like that for my entertainment, for entertainment's sakes. Things like that where I don't want to have to kneeling down to them and begging them for scraps of entertainment at any time, shape, or effort, because I want to take control of what I put out there and consume in my mind, because we are all consumers, but making sure that you consume the right things will really help you. And I think that putting the borders into the areas of where I can, or at least to the greatest power that I can do that, is probably the best bet in doing something like that. If I can control things as much as I can, that's the best thing that we can do. And I think that's the one thing that should be done, is to try to make sure that you can put up barriers, specifically in things that you know can be time consuming or time wasting in your life, and lead you down a road where all of a sudden 30 minutes have passed and you've watched 65 reels, and then all of a sudden you're wondering, why haven't I wiped my ass yet? It's just a very interesting idea, or at least a thing to put up or think about, because it's such problems can exist from such ease of access to things. And I think that that's the biggest thing, is that making sure that I put it up on my own will help me make sure that I can at least go about having to do something in order to unlock it, whether it be getting away from the phone or purchasing something, so then that way I don't have to access anything that is on that phone or something along those lines. But with that being said, please let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this video with anybody who may or may not like it. I will be back on tomorrow with a new video. Thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Keep it heavy, stay safe out there, and stay warm. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.